The Citizen Report is a production of New Shannon Media. All content protected under copyright.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon in North Carolina.
And I'm David Haller in Oklahoma.
And thank you for joining us. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. Thank you so much for joining us. And David, great to have you back on. I know you've been kind of going through a lot in the past few weeks with your quarantine and things like that. And I decided not to tell the audience anything about it. And I don't know if you wanted to talk about that real quick before we get into the show.
But honestly, it's been, the last couple of weeks has been, kind of strange. Being having a quarantine, not being able to go anywhere very much, but it feels good to be back in the swing of things. I didn't show any symptoms of COVID-19. I didn't test positive. Nothing like that. I'm free and clear to pretty much do anything I want to do.
And one of your, classmates basically tested positive, and that's what kind of started this whole thing, right?
Correct. Because of the way my college has the contract tracing set up and based on seating charts, in spite of the fact that I had the face mask on, I was still exposed to it. And honestly, Jonathan, you and I were talking about this off the air. Honestly, this really proves to me that, and also one of the articles that I know you shared on Facebook yesterday, I believe it was. But the point being is, it really proves that face masks are not very effective at preventing the person from catching COVID-19.
Right. And, they say, they have these states. I know in my state, we still have the face mask mandate. And I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that they say that people have to wear them, and yet they still say that there's this risk of contracting the virus even by wearing the mask. So it's like, okay, so you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you might as well just not wear the mask. It's just, I don't know, David. It just points out that there's not a lot of logic to this.
I guess we might as well just do as much things as we can virtually, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the less I have to do with being in stores where I have to wear a mask, the better, as far as I'm concerned, because this is all just over the top now. But David, I just wanted to say it's great having you back, and glad that nothing bad happened, and obviously you had probably a 99.9 whatever percent chance of surviving it. So, but anyways, it's good to have you back, David. I know you're ready to get back in the swing of things. Now one of the stories we've been following this week has to do with a shooting in Denver, Colorado, and it has to do with a security guard who was as we have come to understand, who allegedly was contracted by Pinkerton. It's obviously a big security company. And apparently Pinkerton was contracted by KUSA Channel 9, the NBC affiliate. And we should clarify, it's not an NBC owned station. It is an NBC affiliate. It means another company owns it. And ironically enough, it's owned by Tegna. Now, David, our audience, our longtime viewers will know, we talked about Tegna earlier this year about the potential takeover of the company by Sue Kim and Standard Media, or what is it called? Standard General, something like that.
Standard General.
Yeah, and I just have to say, first of all, how much Sue Kim must be absolutely going like this, doing a facepalm right now at the utter chaos taking place at Tegna. And I will tell you, before I toss it to you, I know, and you can attest to this as well, that there have been people attacking the Tegna stations in other markets, other states across the country. They're calling them out for their station in Denver for having this happen. And let me say this one other thing, David. It basically, as we understand, there's a lot of things we don't really know yet, but one of the things that's become apparent is that this guy who was the victim, he pulled out his mace. Now, this guy was a patriot. He was there for a patriotic cause. This wasn't even a pro-Trump rally. This was just basically a pro-American, pro-patriotic event. And this guy, unfortunately, he was shot, as I understand it, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the face by this security guard. And this security guard, David, this is the thing I want viewers to understand. He has attacked Trump, the security guard that shot him in the face. He, basically once said that he called somebody out for wearing a Trump button on their shirt. And he's just a very anti-Trump person, David. And it makes one wonder if this might have been politically motivated. Now, it may not have been, but it just makes one have to question, obviously, out of due diligence. So, David, I wanted to get your insights on this because this was just a crazy, crazy story.
I agree. I agree with that, and not only that, but if I may, let me share my screen here.
Okay. All right.
If I may.
Sure.
And I do apologize for. There it goes.
Okay.
Maybe if okay, there it goes. Video stop. But not only that, but 9 News itself, KUSA, admitted on its own website that they use multiple unlicensed security guards.
Unbelievable. So Matthew Doloff, who is the security guard that led to all this, who shot the poor man in the face, 9 News is now saying. So there. So now I have spent the better part of this week saying that 9 News is going to be hit with lawsuits. This is going to be an utter disaster. And David, I think this is a smoking gun because it just shows that these people did not take proper diligence if they're having multiple unlicensed security guards, as that headline reads.
I agree completely, but we have to look the context of this, and obviously, as it says on the editorial's note, they're using its sister station CARE in Minneapolis to cover this. So pretty much, as you can see, I'll just read this part down here, and obviously the viewers at home will be able to see this. But it says, this investigation finds that Doloff is not the only unlicensed or not properly credentialed security guard to accompany 9 News crews as they covered protests and riots during the past 5 months. Yes, 5 months. And yet KUSA has used either unlicensed security guards or using security guards that aren't even properly credentialed here. And, basically, it just goes on to say, you can clearly see, obviously, this security guard was unlicensed, and pretty much it even admits right here that 9 News was sponsoring this, as it says on there, BLM Antifa Soup Drive. Right there.
Brother.
Yeah.
And it just points out, we need to mention this too. Pinkerton, not Pinkerton, Doloff, the security guard, Matthew Doloff, I've seen for myself on his Facebook, he has very anti-Trump stuff, which points out this guy, couple that with the fact he's unlicensed, and then his demeanor in the video itself showing the shooting, this guy had no business being there because look what happened.
I agree.
Shot a guy. shot him dead. A patriotic man. I mean, if this guy, I'll tell you what. Let's see, he's been charged with second-degree murder now, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking they were gonna go for first degree, but they decided second degree, probably because they were trying to make sure they get him on a charge that they can actually get a win, get a conviction. But I just think, David, this points out there's a lot of ways to look at this, but 9 News is going to be in a lot of legal trouble here. I
agree. And there's a lot more to this that I just pulled up while you were talking. This investigation that this reporter at CARE in Minneapolis did, this investigation has identified not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 other security guards in addition to Dolov who provided security to 9 News crews since June of this year that had no license whatsoever. For example, the security guard working for 9 News on September 23rd when a car drove through a protest following the grand jury decision in the Breonna Taylor case was not licensed. In response to an inquiry about the guard, Escudero wrote in an email, quote, he does not have a security guard record. When asked about the status of 3 other guards who had provided security for 9 News, Escudero wrote, we double-checked and, quote, we double-checked and I can confirm no individuals by these names have ever held or even applied for a security guard individual license in the city and county of Denver. Let me read that part again. I can confirm no individuals by these names has ever held or even bothered to apply for a security guard license, just even an individual security guard license within the city and the county of Denver.
Yeah. Oh, that's just outrageous, David. And also too.
Yet, wait a minute. There's more on this last line. The management at KUSA has pretty much refused to confirm which security company those individual guards were contracted through.
Oh, brother. David, this points out. I'm going to segue slightly to mention this. We can come back to that in a second, but I feel like I need to say this right now. I'm not going to name names on this broadcast, but there are certain individuals that have been absolutely defending Tegna, defending 9 News like you wouldn't believe. And we both know, David, that this is Tegna that we're talking about, that owns 9 News KUSA. And I would say, wouldn't you agree that they kind of lean left, don't they?
Yes, I agree. I agree completely.
And if Sinclair, who leans to the right, conservative, if they were involved, there would be riots right now on the street, I think. And it just points out, David, that there's a lack of fairness here on this issue and on most every issue right now. There seems to be a double standard where there are the haves and have-nots. People can do certain things and get away with, other people can't. And I don't know, David. I don't know if I'm going too far with that, but I just cannot believe how people are just defending this right now.
I agree completely on that one. And quite frankly, you and I have looked on the Twitters. It's clear to us that even certain people on Twitter are calling for the station license of KUSA to be pulled. They're calling for it. For it. And not only that, but as you mentioned earlier, it's spreading to other Texas stations right now. And I haven't checked lately, but it's spreading everywhere, even on the Tegna's main page as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So
on Dave Loki's Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. Dave Logie is the
Yeah.
CEO. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the chief executive officer of Tesla. But he's the lead man at the company. I've even saw something on his Twitter where someone came in and criticized it.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also too, David, I want you to speak on what you think about this shooter himself as an individual. How is it that a man? Because here's the thing, and I believe it was the reporter was Brandon Leslie, and people don't know who he is. He used to work in the mainstream media. He now does his own thing. He does his own independent reporting, but he once worked at Wink Television down in Fort Myers. He was a reporter there at the time, back in the day, and he called out the media. If I'm not mistaken, I forget if it was the media specifically, but he called people out generally for how they were more concerned about the Amy Coney Barrett Supreme Court hearings than they were about this. And it's just like it just again goes back to the double standard the mainstream media has, because when it involves one of their own and it doesn't fit their plot, because this wasn't a black man that got shot, this was a white man, and he was probably conservative. I don't really know, but he was patriotic for sure. He, clearly was in support of America, this victim. And this guy that shot him was a far leftist. And yet, do you see the mainstream media spending hour and after hour of coverage like CNN? No. I'd be surprised if they even, I know Fox News mentioned it, but it would not surprise me if these left-leaning outlets didn't bother to do more than just barely mention it. And that just points out the hypocrisy here.
I agree. It really points out to this hypocrisy. Now, I just pulled up, while you were talking, this thing here about security guards having license, because I did mention that as I was talking through this article. But for the viewers at home that don't know what that is, here it is. The Denver Code states a license, so a security guard license, is required for anyone protecting individuals or property from harm. So, without question, they need to have a security guard in County of Denver, without question. But this part right here, yeah, you may want to grab your popcorn for this one. If there is no record of a person with a security guard license and they are working as a security guard, they are breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
They are breaking the law. And what that tells us right there is not only did Pinkerton break the law, the whoever the third party was that Pinkerton contracted, they too broke the law. But you might also say that 9 News and Tegna, they too broke the law as well.
It's starting to seem that way for sure.
So it's it's clear to us that even I mention it, that it's clear to us that the FCC may have to get involved at some point. Who knows when? But at some point, I have a feeling that the FCC is going to have to get involved.
I agree.
It's just clear whether people on this certain site that we're in like it or not. They're going to have to.
Well, and it goes back to what I said already, that there's a hypocrisy, there's double standard here, because as I said, this was a I don't like using the words white or black, but for simplicity, I'll just say a white man was shot. He was shot dead. He was a patriotic man. He was shot by a far leftist lunatic, quite frankly, who should have never even been there to begin with, without a license. And yet, do you see the mainstream media holding their own accountable? No, they're on to their next big story, about how how bad they say Trump is, and they just don't bat an eye over this, David. And it just I think one of the reasons that we're talking about this because it exposes their hypocrisy. Because if we're ever going to get to a better future with news gathering organizations, we have to call these people out, because the only way a news organization is worth what they say they are is if they hold themselves to the same standard that they hold other people to. So it's just an outrage, David, quite frankly. So
I agree. And go and go on with your other thoughts. I'm reading something.
Okay, I was basically going to kind of wrap up by basically saying that when we had let me say this. It was like when you had the death of George Floyd in I believe June in Minneapolis, and you had nationwide, literally the mainstream media and the Democrat governors, like my governor here, Governor Cooper, who basically was endorsing what he called peaceful protesters, or whatever he said. He was claiming they were peaceful, and yet, so they had all of that stuff for months on end, and they were talking about how racist America is and all that stuff. And yet, you actually have a shooting where everything's on the other shoe, so to speak. The security guard shot the man was white too. But my point being is that they should be holding everything to the same standard, but it just points out if it doesn't fit their narrative, they don't care about it. So it's just, David, it just exposes these people. It really does at this point, and it's unfortunate.
Exactly. It really is. And just pulled up an article from Fox News, and it looks like the family of that shooting victim.
Yeah.
It looks like they're going to try and reach a settlement between all the parties involved first, and then if it doesn't work out, then they'll go for the lawsuits.
Yeah. Oh, I think there is going to be a lawsuit, even if it's not by them. Somebody out there is going to sue them, I think. And I mean Channel 9. Channel 9 is going to get sued. They might as well just lawyer up right now. So
I agree. And not only Channel 9 could be sued, but I wouldn't go as far as say Tegna could be sued as well.
Well, they're the parent company, so they're technically responsible for any of their stations.
Right.
And I think it goes back to what I mentioned on the top of the show, or top of this discussion anyway, about Sue Kim. Because there's no perfect company out there. There's always going to be room for improvement. But I must say, I really wonder if it weren't for the Tegna being set up the way it is right now, how they're all about being trendy and stuff, that maybe things would be run better if someone else was owning them, or if it was a totally different company to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have to wonder how much Sue Kim, also not only that, but I have to wonder how much is Sue Kim really upset about the whole situation right now.
I have no doubt in my mind he's paying attention to it, because let's not forget, and I mentioned this earlier, he was trying to take over the company. He was trying to get his people on the board of the company, and they weren't. He didn't have success. Correct? He didn't get anybody on the board, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then all of this happens months later. And this is not a little itty bitty issue. Somebody's dead now. There's a dead man in all this. And it could have all been avoided if Channel 9 hadn't hired an unlicensed individual.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think that there's going to be changes nationwide, probably even all the way up to perhaps the SEC level here, that there's going to have to be changes to the way security guards are handled, I think.
I agree. I agree.
I think that there's going to have to be big changes. Now, do I think that the station licenses could be pulled? Maybe not. Yeah, probably not.
Unless if we later find out that there was something far more worse going on, and which I doubt, but only if it got to the point where it was involving the actual operation of the station itself, like directly, then we might have a case. But at this point, I don't think there is. I do think that the station it has set itself up for endless civil liabilities going forward. That's going to take years to resolve.
I agree. And, this may force Tegna to sell. They may have no choice but to sell eventually at some point, Jonathan.
I think they should. I think Tegna should sell because I don't think they're a good company, quite frankly.
Here's the thing. They weren't a good company to begin with, and now they're not. Here's the thing. They weren't a good company to begin with, and now they may be the worst company in the media sector. Perhaps.
Yeah.
And maybe they may be so much worse that maybe the whole situation with, say, RKO General wasn't so bad for them.
Right.
Who knows?
Absolutely.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And well, obviously we'll see what happens with the cases going forward, but I think that going forward, Pinkerton is in serious trouble. I think KUSA is in some serious trouble, and maybe even Tegna could be in serious trouble as well going forward with this. And this is going to be something that you and I may be covering this for who knows how long.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. It's going to be a long bit. So obviously, David, we'll keep the viewers updated about the Denver shooting because, as we just said, it's going to be a long bit to see how this goes to where, however this situation resolves itself. It's going to be a long bit, and I think it just points out there's a lot more I think that's going to come out about the media too in general, and I mean mainstream media. As we go forward. And David, we don't really have time tonight to talk about it, but I do just want to touch on the fact that YouTube has censored all these different channels, David, and I think it points out what desperation these these big tech companies, David, are going to try to stop one, Trump from being reelected, and two, people being able to have a free and open discourse and exchange of opinions on social media, David. Just quickly, what are your thoughts about that?
I think that honestly, with the FCC, doing the things that they're doing with Section 230, I think the tech giants that are censoring us conservatives, Jonathan, are in serious trouble.
I think so too. We saw the FCC commissioner, the Ajit Pai, basically say he's going to take a look at Section 230, and it looks like the whole meaning of Section 230 is going to be modified considerably. So I think these big tech giants, they're digging themselves a big hole, and they're not going to be able to climb out of it because, look, some of our most favorite channels, my personal favorites, SGT Report. Number one favorite was X22 Report, and you had others like Deception Bites, Mark Taylor, and others who were just censored, David. There was no reason. I mean, this is what 1984 looks like. You're not allowed to have your own open and free opinion anymore. And we just saw today, YouTube is now saying, if I'm not mistaken, it was YouTube that basically announced today, the CEO said that they're not going to allow misinformation, they call it, anything that goes against what the scientists say about the COVID-19 vaccine, they're not going to allow.
Oh, boy.
So, panicking like there's no tomorrow. I think it has to be said at this point. And we'll just have to see how this plays out, David. But unfortunately, we are out of time tonight. But I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. And just very briefly, I just want to let everyone know I'm not going to be using this set every week, but I'm happy to say that I'm back on my set here. Kind of have some history in it. 2016, I used it for Christian Nation TV. On a couple episodes back when the Citizen Report was a college podcast, I used this set. But it's good to be bringing this set back into use. So hope everyone likes it. May pop on an image back here as well as time goes on, but I'm happy to be getting back into this setup. So on that note, thank you for watching the Citizen Report. And David, great to have you back on. And at least for now, do tell where people can find you on social media.
Right now, at this point, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. But honestly, because of my so much inactivity, it may be to the point where I just may not have social media accounts at all. Who knows at this point? But yes, in the meantime, do follow me on there. I don't have Instagram anymore. I got rid of that. So yeah.
Okay. And at least until they ban me, if that happens, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, of course, YouTube for obvious reasons. And I'm exploring about where to put a backup channel for the Citizen Report in case we get pulled down from YouTube. But we'll have to see how it plays out. Do go to our website, thecitizenreport.weebly.com. Click on the text alerts button and subscribe to our new text message alert system. I can let you know whenever there's a new broadcast or if there's a major announcement, such as if we get censored. So, but David, again, thank you for coming on, and it's great to have you back on again. And to everyone at home, thank you for tuning in, and God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you right back here again next time. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.